Hi. I'm here in my bedroom in Bahria in front of the computer trying to upload some videos. It's also the only air-conditioned room in the house. That's mine. Anyway, the day we left the village about a week ago, the rains washed out the road again. And the villagers went out there and they repaired it again. And they will probably do so 3 or 4 more times again before the rainy season is over. But that's not the big news. A couple of days ago, we got some bad news. There's a young man in the village, 37 years old, wife and 3 kids. And he's a farmer. And he went up onto the mountain in the rain, because, life doesn't stop because it's raining out, and needs don't stop, and you still got to do what you got to do. So he went up there and he was clearing land, clearing underbrush around some of the trees in anticipation of harvesting them probably before Tet failed. And he's doing what we're doing, growing the trees. And we pay people $100,000 a day, about once a month, to go up there and clean the undergrowth around the trees so that the trees can grow bigger, get the nutrients in the soil. $100,000 is about $5. Anyway, he went up there and he didn't come home. The entire village has turned out looking for him. They found his backpack, they found his machete, the big curved knife that he uses to clear. They found his shorts in a stream bed. What probably happened was there was a cloud burst while he was up there, and we got caught in a flash flood. There's a slim chance he might be alive. The whole village, like I said, the whole village is turned out. My brother-in-law Di, who is village administrator, the high mucky muck, the equivalent of a PhD, is up there with his wife, stomping around. My wife's aunt, the village doctor, retired village doctor, and her husband is up there. Another aunt who's a former village chief and runs a restaurant. She traveled to Hanoi. She met the president of Vietnam. She convinced them to come to the village 9 years ago, and that resulted in the electrification of the village, and it resulted in the road being built and the bridges being built. She's up there with her husband. Everybody's up there pulling, trying to help this young woman. This young woman's got 3 children. It's going to cost about $300 a year to send them to school. Her income situation is tenuous, to say the least. She's lucky if she can make the equivalent of $150 a month on an average. She'll probably have to sell her for land. It's probably been in the family for generations. Or maybe the lumber will get her through. I don't know what the situation is, but I do know this. Those children will go to school. One way or the other, those 3 children will go to school. I just wish they had more 7-Elevens in Vietnam. Knock off a couple. Whatever. I promised Mom I wouldn't do that anymore. Yeah, I'm being flippant. Yeah, I'm distressed. I'm hurting. I wish I could be up there with them, but then there'd be 2 people missing. So I probably wouldn't be that much of an asset in a search party on the side of a mountain anyway. But a couple of years ago, I was up in Colorado visiting my former lieutenant, Tommy Deutschlander. And he gave me two books to read. One was War by Sebastian Junger. Now you might know Sebastian from A Perfect Storm. But Sebastian Junger is a writer, a documentarian, basically, more of a filmmaker than anything else, I would suppose. But he did three documentaries. He wrote this book, War, and he also did three documentaries on Afghanistan, and they centered around a platoon, one platoon of the 173rd Airborne Brigade, which was out in a little outpost in the middle of nowhere, Afghanistan. And Sebastian came to note the tribal ethos, the tribal mythos that surrounded the 173rd. Let me tell you something about the 173rd Brigade, right? The 173rd Brigade, when they absolutely have to be dead by morning, send in the 173rd. 173rd is perhaps the toughest, meanest infantry unit in the United States Army, airborne infantry. I mean, they epitomize it. I worked with them I was stationed next to them at Bawan, Vietnam in the mid-60s, and they were mean then and they are mean now, and that's what you gotta have. The tip of the spear, man. How does that mythos survive for 50, 60 years? You know, how does that 173rd Brigade. You mentioned the 173rd Brigade today, you mentioned 173rd 50 years ago, and people just shudder, you know what I mean? There's some tough SOBs, you know. So he wrote the book. And then he wrote a book called Tribe, exploring the ethos, the tribal ethos, and how it applies today in our civilization, our civilized society. He noted that, with examples, the Blitz in London and a couple of others, that in times of high stress, in times of high need, communities tend to come together, and the tribal mythos takes over, the tribal ethos takes over, and we work together. It's when we are ensconced in our upholstered brothels of civilization here, we tend to forget it. We tend to forget that we are all connected. Now, granted, a tribe of much more than 150, 200 people has a difficult time. Our brains are wired to have intimate relationships with about 150, maybe up to 300 people at the max. And ergo, the infantry platoon of about 50, the infantry company of about 100 men, infantry platoon of about 25, 30 men, 40 men. That's where you see it today. That's where you see it today. You don't see it on Wall Street. You won't see it anything like that. And then there was a book called Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari, who was, I believe, from Tel Aviv University. And he wrote a book, and he explores the rewiring that took place in our brains around 70,000 years ago. How Homo sapiens, what triggered us? And basically it was our capacity for fiction. We could develop a common mythology. We could develop fictitious things to guide us. Things like, gods, laws, things like money, corporations, all these things are fiction. They really don't have material presence. They're in here, in our minds, But that's what makes our civilization. And of course, there's another one called The Artificial Ape, a wonderful book which explores how our technology is evolving us. But up in the mountains, Not so much. Up in the mountains, technology is a wooden plow and a knife. That's what they're using to survive. Of course, that's going away. But anyway, I digress, which I tend to do when I'm upset, and I'm upset about this young man and his family. Those 3 boys will go to school. That's going to happen. Somehow. As long as I draw a breath, which may not be all that much longer, but I'm pretty sure Lon will take over and make it happen. Anyway. When you leave for work this morning, look back over your shoulder, look at your family. And they got a reasonable probability of you coming home tomorrow night, coming home tonight. And I hope you do. I hope you appreciate it. But anyway, you take care and appreciate what you got. And appreciate who you got in your life. There's a lot of places in this world, man, where we really have no concept of how they live or what goes on. Anyway, y'all take care.